The meeting lasted less than 5 minutes. Diana had already sensed what was coming before she even sat down. Her boss, Mark Ellison, had that careful smile executives used when they wanted a conversation to feel generous. His hands were folded on the desk like he was about to deliver good news. "Deanna, your work has been exceptional." She nodded politely. "But we've decided to move forward with KRISTEN for the VP role. She brings a fresh energy to the team." There it was, neatly packaged. Diana noticed how he kept smiling as he said it, as if the compliment should soften the decision. KRISTEN had been with the company less than a year. Diana had built half the client portfolio over the past 8. For a moment she studied the framed awards behind his desk. The company loved celebrating results, just not always the people responsible for them. "Of course," she said quietly. She didn't argue, didn't ask questions. She simply thanked him for the opportunity, picked up her bag, and left the office. In the hallway, people were already whispering about the promotion announcement. KRISTEN stood near the break area, surrounded by polite congratulations that sounded slightly forced. Diana walked past without stopping. The following days felt strangely normal. Emails still needed answers. Meetings still appeared on her calendar. Clients still called her directly when something needed fixing. No one mentioned the promotion to her again, though several colleagues avoided eye contact as if disappointment might be contagious. At night, she thought about the clients. The company treated them as accounts, numbers attached to quarterly targets, but Diana had spent years building those relationships slowly. She knew their children's names, the pressures on their businesses, the reasons they trusted her enough to sign contracts worth millions. Those relationships had never really belonged to the company. They belonged to trust. The thought came quietly at first, almost as a question. If she left, what would happen? She didn't rush into anything. Instead, she began having honest conversations. One client asked casually during a call, "Are you still the one handling our strategy?" "For now," she replied. There was a pause on the line. "Well," he said, "wherever you go next, let us know." Another client said almost the same thing 2 days later. Then a third. None of them sounded surprised when she explained she was considering starting her own consultancy. If anything, they sounded relieved. The paperwork took time. Lawyers reviewed details. Agreements were drafted carefully. Diana insisted everything remain professional. No one was pressured. No contracts were broken improperly. 3 clients simply chose to move their business with the person they trusted. The signatures arrived over the weekend. On Tuesday morning, Diana scheduled a meeting with Mark. He greeted her with the cautious politeness people reserve for former favorites. "I assume this is about your transition plans," he said, something like that. She placed a slim folder on his desk and slid it toward him. He opened it without concern. The first page was simple, her resignation letter. Mark exhaled slowly, nodding as if this outcome had been inevitable. "I'm sorry to see you go," he said automatically. Then he turned the page. The second document was a signed service agreement from one of the company's largest clients. The third page held another. By the time he reached the fourth, the color had drained from his face. The room became very quiet. "These clients," he began, but the sentence never finished. "They asked to continue working with me," Diana said calmly. Mark stared down at the signatures again, as if the ink might disappear if he looked long enough. "They represent nearly 40% of our division," he said. "I know." There was no anger in her voice. No satisfaction either. Just clarity. "They weren't contracts I inherited," she added. "I built those partnerships personally. When I told them I was leaving, they made their own decisions." Mark leaned back slowly. For years the company had spoken about client loyalty as if it were something automatic. As if the logo on the building guaranteed it. But now the reality sat quietly on his desk. The loyalty had been to her. "What happens now?" he asked. Diana outlined the transition plan she had prepared. 90 days of cooperation. No disruption to ongoing projects, full professionalism. She had anticipated every question. Mark closed the folder. The confident smile he wore during the promotion meeting was gone now. In its place was something more uncertain, like a calculation he hadn't expected to make. "You planned this," he said quietly. "No," Diana replied. She stood and adjusted the strap of her bag. "I just understood the situation." For a moment neither of them spoke. Then she thanked him for the opportunities the company had given her and walked out of the office. The hallway looked exactly the same as it had the week before. Phones ringing. Conversations drifting from conference rooms. Someone laughing near the printers. Nothing dramatic had happened. But as Diana stepped into the elevator, she felt something settle inside her. Not victory. Just a quiet certainty that the work she had done, the relationships she had built, had always carried more weight than a title someone else decided not to give her. And now, finally, that weight belonged to her.